Welcome back. Today, StoryPot bring you a story of family, resilience, and the quiet tragedies of a life one cannot simply fight back against. There are no sudden miracles here, no fairy tale endings that bridge the gap of reality. The beauty of this tale lies in its messy humanity, where no one is entirely a saint or a villain, and everyone is simply trying to survive for the sake of those they love. The premise: after my marriage, my life spiraled into a nightmare. My husband's family, desperate and destitute, essentially pawned me off to another man just so I could bear his children. I was 4 months into my pregnancy when a group of strangers appeared at the door. They claimed I wasn't a nameless farm wife, but the long-lost legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's estate. When I was brought to the Prime Minister's manor, the father of the child in my womb was brought along as well. His name was Lee Mong. Just before we were discovered, he had been gearing up to catch a chicken for my dinner. Instead, the Prime Minister's men swooped in and hauled us away like a pair of frightened chicks. The Prime Minister's wife was a woman of noble grace, her eyes brimming with tears as she scrutinized me from head to toe. First, she seized my wrist, searching for a specific birthmark. "It really is my child," she wept, before her gaze softened upon my slightly protruding belly. "To think you survived and grew to a marriageable age, that is enough. That is a blessing." Then her eyes shifted to the man standing awkwardly beside me. "And is this our son-in-law? Since they are already wed, the Prime Minister will surely accept him. He shall live here with our daughter." "No," Li Meng blurted out, shaking his head vigorously. "I'm not a son-in-law or anything of the sort." Confusion clouded the lady's face. "But is the child she carries not yours?" "It is," Li Meng said, his jaw tight. "But your real son-in-law is someone else. She and I only have a contract, a bill of sale. Once the child is born, our paths are meant to part." I stepped forward, finding my voice. "I am a daughter-in-law he purchased." The room fell into a stunned silence. From the lady herself to the young lords, ladies, and even the servants, every face was a mask of shock. But I saw no reason to hide the truth. I had indeed been bought by Lee Mong to carry on his line. Lee Mong looked like a scholar, but he was a man who had carried a heavy blade onto the battlefield. It was because of his long absences at war that his first wife had run off with another man. To make matters worse, his relatives had exploited his absence, swallowing up half his land and leaving him with only a few meager plots. He had become a poor man, though a healthy and capable one. For a time, women still looked his way, until rumors spread that he had committed a grave offense in the military and been dishonorably discharged. Then they fled. His aunts and neighbors eventually pressured him. "Just buy a woman," they said. "Leave a legacy behind." So, Li Meng sold his remaining land and used the silver to buy a contract. It stated clearly that we were to be husband and wife for 2 years. If I bore a child, the child stayed with him. If I didn't, I would accept whatever fate followed. That money had been a lifeline. Before Li Mong, I was with my husband, Zhao Zizong. We had gone into the mountains and were cornered by a wolf. He fought it off to save me, but his left leg was shredded to the bone. We tried every folk remedy we knew, but the wound refused to heal. It rotted. Zizong spent 3 days and nights screaming in agony, unable to sleep, his body wasting away to nothing. Seeing him in such torment, his mother had nearly lost her mind. She brought out rat poison, intending to end both their lives. That was when I made my choice. "I have a way," I told her. "We will call a doctor. I will find the money." In our world, the way wasn't a mystery. It was a path women had walked for generations. To be married once and then married again to save a life. There was no room for shame when survival was at stake. The night the money arrived, so did the contract. It required Zhao Zizong's signature. I dipped his finger in ink and pressed it firmly onto the paper for him. He sobbed, a broken guttural sound, his pained gaze lingering on the rough parchment. I said nothing. I simply packed my things and moved into Li Mang's house. 2 months later, I was pregnant. By the 4th month, the strangers arrived, calling me Ren Yuexi, the lost daughter of the Prime Minister. The title, First Miss of the Prime Minister's estate, felt like a dream, something far beyond the reach of a woman like me. But their grim expressions told me this was no joke. They claimed I was lost at age 4. I was the second daughter with an older brother named Ren Jianying. After I disappeared, the family had adopted a girl to take my place, presenting her to the world as me. Now that I was back, her name had been changed to Ren Yuehuan. When I finished explaining how I had been sold as a pawn wife, Ren Yuehuan pressed a silk handkerchief to her mouth. She couldn't help herself. "How could this be?" she whispered. "What of your chastity, your dignity? Do you not care for your reputation at all?" I stared at her, momentarily speechless. I looked at her hands, white, soft, and unblemished. They were the hands of someone who had been meticulously cared for. Suddenly, Ren Jianying, who had been silent until then, spoke sharply. "Yue Huan, do not be insolent." She immediately shrank back behind Lady Ren. "Mother, Yue Huan was out of line." Lady Ren patted her arm absently before looking at Li Mang and me with a hardened resolve. "Take the son-in-law to his prepared quarters. Yuexi, stay here. We need to talk." Li Mang grew wary. "Perhaps I should just head back to the farm." Lady Ren's face darkened. "Your wife is here. Where do you think you're going?" Li Mang gave a weak, forced smile. Fine, I'll stay." But Li Mang didn't go to his room. Lady Ren kept us both in the hall and got straight to the point. "There are 2 ways forward. First, while the child is still small, we terminate the pregnancy. You and this man will have no further connection." Li Mang panicked. "The contract is clear. Yuexi is to be my wife for 700 days. It hasn't even been 200 yet. You can't just end it like that." Lady Ren glared at him before turning to me. "Second, you officially divorce your previous husband, Zhao Zizong. From this day forward, you and Li Mang are done with that contract. You will stay here and live a quiet, respectable life." I shook my head violently. "I won't abandon my husband. I won't do it." Lady Ren's voice rose in agitation. "Do you expect the Prime Minister's estate to house a daughter who acts as a surrogate for hire?" I froze, then whispered, "If we are an embarrassment, Li Mang and I will leave right now." Lady Ren's eyes turned red. "Ren Yuexi, I am not giving you a choice." My heart hammered in my chest. To be honest, the lady's daughter title had felt hollow until that moment, until she shouted at me. For a split second, I had a flash of being a child again, being scolded by a mother who had raised me. That illusion was enough to make me fall silent. "Your father has been at the palace for days," Lady Ren said before leaving. "The northern border is restless. The Jin Shui tribe is testing our defenses, and the military situation is a headache. But before he returns, you must choose." That night, neither Li Mang nor I could sleep. "Just listen to the lady," he whispered. "When the baby is born, I'll take it away immediately. I'll never show my face near this manor again. It'll be like you and I never happened. I won't let it touch your reputation." "The baby will be a newborn," I argued. "How will you even feed it?" Li Mang rolled his eyes. "My mother died early, and my father didn't give a damn about me. Didn't the neighbor's wife get me by on rice porridge? If anything, I'll just find someone to help." "Rice porridge? Don't talk nonsense." We went in circles all night. The next morning, as I was looking for an excuse to stall, I saw someone I never expected to see within these walls. Zhao Zizong. He was lying on a litter, his lower body covered by a thick quilt. He looked more dead than alive. I rushed to him, my heart in my throat. He was still breathing. Ren Jianying pulled me aside and pulled back the quilt. The stench of decay hit us instantly. Zizong slowly turned his head, his eyes fluttering shut. Jianying didn't cover his nose. He simply frowned. A wild beast did this, didn't it? Can you heal him? I asked desperately. I've seen wounds like this on the march, Jianying replied. I know several physicians who specialize in this. We can try, but it has been left far too long. I turned to Lady Ren. If you can save him, I'll agree to anything. Lady Ren offered a comforting smile and nodded to Jianying. Do your best. Even if the doctors are difficult to summon, Jianying promised, I will knock on every door myself. With Zizong taken away for treatment, Lady Ren made the decision for me. I would live with Li Meng and the child. Simply put, the pawn wife story was to be erased from history. She even told me that if the manor felt too stifling, she would buy us a separate estate after the birth. The next day, the weather cleared. Lady Ren took me to see the city, and Yue Huan insisted on coming along. The girl was like a shadow. The estate Lady Ren showed me was massive. The kitchen alone was larger than the entire house I had lived in before. I had no complaints. As we walked past a pond in the courtyard, I lingered, wondering if we could raise some fish there. I fell behind the others. When I finally caught up, I saw Lady Ren playfully pinching Yue Huan's nose. Before we brought your sister back, you were always sulking, Lady Ren said softly. Now that she's actually here, you're willing to go out for walks with her? Yue Huan acted coy. Mother, don't tease me. I just think Yuexi's life has been so pitiful. She has the title of the first daughter, but none of the luck that goes with it. As if to prove her own luck, Yue Huan spotted a street vendor selling pear candy and insisted on some. Lady Ren went to buy it for her while I waited nearby. A man at a nearby stall dropped his coin purse without noticing. I picked it up and returned it. The man looked to be in his late 50s with a dignified, commanding presence. He looked at me, noticed my pregnancy, and seemed slightly flustered that a pregnant woman had bent down for him. Which house do you belong to, madam? Why are you out here alone? She's your daughter, Lady Ren's voice rang out behind me. She stepped forward, scolding him. You've been at the palace for so long, and yet you didn't rush straight home? The Prime Minister took 2 sugar dough figurines from a vendor, mentioning that children love sweets. He gave one to me and one to Yue Huan. I used to sell these things myself and had grown sick of them, so I ate mine slowly. My teeth ached, and I instinctively looked to pass the rest to Zizong, only to realize he wasn't there. I forced myself to finish it. Back at the manor, Yue Huan hopped out of the carriage and tossed her half-eaten treat to a servant. The butler was waiting at the door. Young Master Shu is here. Yue Huan's eyes lit up. She started to run inside, but Lady Ren caught her. You aren't married yet. Don't be so impetuous. I understood then. This was Yue Huan's fiancé, Shu Linghuai. We entered the main hall where Ren Jianying was already seated. Across from him sat Shu Linghuai. I felt a flicker of recognition. He was a noble-looking young man, poised and respectful, but he was there for one reason: to break the engagement. The Prime Minister looked baffled. Shu Linghuai remained calm. The match between our families was made by our mothers before we were even born. At the time, the child in her ladyship's womb was clearly not Yue Huan. For years, the truth was hidden, and everyone assumed Yue Huan was the second miss. Now that the real second miss has returned, the engagement to Yue Huan is no longer valid. Lady Ren pulled me forward. Yuexi has been found, yes, but she is already a married woman. How could she marry into the Shu family? And that is why I am here to end the engagement, Shu Linghuai said. Ren Jianying let out a cold laugh. Yue Huan might not be of our blood, but to end things so decisively, is it really about the bloodline? Or is there someone else in your heart? Shu Linghuai went silent for a moment. That is irrelevant. As he turned to leave, his eyes caught mine. He paused, studying me. You look familiar. His words confirmed my suspicion. I raised my hand in a small greeting. In the past, when you went hunting in the mountains, you accidentally injured one of my rabbits. You thought it was wild, but it had escaped from my hutch. He had been generous with his silver back then, and he had a face so handsome it was impossible to forget in a mountain village. How are you and Brother Zhao? He asked. Before I could answer, Lady Ren cut in. Yuexi's husband is the Prime Minister's kin, a man named Li Meng. Shu Linghuai blinked, his gaze dropping to my belly. He said nothing more and left. The Prime Minister looked worried. Yue Huan is quite fond of young Master Shu. I don't know how much of a scene she'll make this time. He has only ever seen her as a sister, Jianying remarked. Yue Huan just refused to see it. Now he finally has a valid excuse to walk away. Lady Ren huffed. Let him. The Shu family's prosperity was never built on solid ground anyway. They explained that the Shu family's current favor was due to Shu Linghuai's father selling his own daughter. Years ago, during peace talks with the Jinshui tribe, the enemy demanded a princess for a political marriage. The emperor couldn't bear to send a royal daughter, so they looked for a daughter from a noble house to title as a princess. Shu's father had stepped forward and offered up his eldest daughter, Linghuai's sister. Since then, his career had soared. When I returned to my room, Li Meng was already there. He told me he'd heard Yue Huan crying. That Shu fellow is a straight shooter. He only acknowledges the bloodline. But Yue Huan has been here for years. She's basically a daughter, isn't she? Li Meng shook his head. I disagree. The boy is right. Blood is blood. Right is right. A soft cough sounded at the door. Li Meng stood up immediately. Big brother. It was Ren Jianying. He looked at Li Meng. I need to speak with Yuexi. Li Meng took the hint and stepped out. Jianying's gaze settled on me. I heard you two discussing Yue Huan. We weren't speaking ill of her, I said quickly. If anything, we were talking about Master Shu. Jianying smiled. Don't be tense. I came to talk to you about her. Her mood has been terrible. Even our parents can't soothe her. If she loses her head and says something spiteful to you, don't hesitate to put her in her place. You're older than her. A sharp word or two will straighten her out. Jianying blinked, seemingly lost in thought. Actually, I've never seen anyone straighten her out like that. I wondered if I had overstepped. Is her anger because of me? The family has been searching for you for years, he said. Finding you was only a matter of time. She couldn't have stopped it. I hesitated. Being reunited with my mother is a blessing, but I didn't necessarily have to come back. It might have been better for everyone. Better how? Jianying's tone turned ice cold. Do you think you haven't suffered enough? If we hadn't brought you back, you would still be pawning yourself off to be a wife and mother for someone else's sake. There was a sharp edge to his voice, a hint of disdain that made me feel suddenly, utterly helpless. A dull ache throbbed in my abdomen. Jianying noticed my distress and panicked, reaching out to steady me. Yuexi? The clinic, I managed to say. Take me to the clinic. I'll bring a doctor here. No, to the clinic where Zizong is. He understood my small, stubborn wish. The situation was urgent, so he gave in. After taking medicine to stabilize the pregnancy, I went to see Zhao Zizong. His face had some color back in it. He was sitting up, holding up 2 fingers with a weak smile. "I managed a few steps today." "That's wonderful," I said, fighting back tears. Jianying checked the time. "It's dark, we should head back." Zizong urged me to go as well. I leaned on Jianying, looking back at the clinic until we turned the corner. On the way home, Jianying suddenly stopped, staring toward a nearby river. A small, ornate boat was moored there. Shu Linghuai was on the deck. He wasn't alone. A beautiful woman with bold red lips and a high bridge to her nose was smiling, feeding him a grape. Their intimacy was unmistakable. "Why is Princess Shuelian with him?" Jianying whispered. Even a country woman like me had heard of Princess Shuelian. She was the emperor's most favored daughter, the girl who could have the stars if she asked for them. Jianying's surprise faded into a calm realization. "I see. Being the prince consort is a much grander title than being the prime minister's son-in-law." He led me back toward the manor. The streets were quiet now, but the sudden thunder of galloping hooves shattered the silence. Jianying, holding a lantern, saw the horse charging toward us and yanked me out of the way just in time. "Are you blind?" Jianying roared at the rider. The rider looked down with arrogance. "I am delivering fresh fruit to the princess. If there is a delay, can you take the responsibility?" Jianying's knuckles cracked as he balled his fists. After a long moment, he turned to me. "Are you all right?" "My God," I exhaled, still trembling. "The capital is so dangerous." "Everywhere is dangerous," Jianying sighed. "Wherever there are people, there is danger." "And wolves," I added quietly. He looked at me and sighed again. I finally made it back to my room in the middle of the night. Li Meng was fast asleep, but I couldn't settle. My heart felt heavy with an inexplicable dread. Then I heard it. 2 soft knocks at the door. I opened it to find Ren Jianying. "We have to go," he whispered on E. "Now." I knew something was wrong, but I never expected it to be about Zizong. In the dead of night, he had quietly limped out of the clinic and vanished. Then, he threw himself into the river. It was a desperate act of suicide. He didn't even know how to swim. It should have been a certain tragedy, but by some miracle, someone pulled him out. I sobbed as I asked how anyone could have been out on the water so late. "It wasn't a boatman," Ren Jianying said. It was him." Shu Linghuai stepped forward, drenched to the bone. Water dripped from his hair and the hem of his robes, leaving him looking utterly bedraggled. I was stunned, but then I remembered he had been on a boat earlier, sharing a romantic moment with the princess. It wasn't so surprising that he'd been positioned to catch Zhao Zizong when he jumped. I stammered out a thank you, then turned back to Ren Jianying. "And Zizong? Where is he?" "He's been taken back to the clinic. From now on, someone will be watching his every move." Shu Linghuai spoke up suddenly. "If Brother Zhao is right here, why did Lady Ren claim their son-in-law was a man named Li?" Ren Jianying's voice sharpened instantly. "Since when does Master Shu enjoy idle gossip?" Shu Linghuai didn't blink. "Technically, Yuexi and I were engaged 6 months ago. Meeting again like this, it's only natural to ask a few questions out of concern." "You certainly are a sentimental one," Jianying retorted. They went back and forth, trading barbs that led nowhere. Finally, I spoke up. "Master Shu, there's no need to guess. It's exactly as it was when we met 6 months ago. Zizong was bitten by a wolf, and we needed silver for his treatment. So, I pawned myself to the Li family. That's all there is to it." Jianying tried to interrupt me several times, but I wouldn't be stopped. I kept my head high, meeting Shu Linghuai's shocked and conflicted gaze. Eventually, Jianying broke the silence, guiding me away. "You should get home and change your clothes, Brother Shu," he tossed over his shoulder. It was a sleepless night. The moment we stepped back into the Prime Minister's manor, the courtyard was lit as bright as day, heavy with a suffocating tension. Lady Ren and the Prime Minister sat enthroned in the center, while Li Meng was forced to his knees on the ground. My heart sank. What happened? The Prime Minister pointed a cold finger at Li Meng. Ask him yourself. I didn't lay a finger on Miss Yue Huan, Li Meng practically roared. I woke up and couldn't find Yuexi, so I went out to look for her. Someone gave me directions to a courtyard, but it was pitch black. I had no idea it belonged to Miss Yue Huan. Lady Ren slammed her hand onto the arm of her chair. Lies! Pure fabrication! It's not a lie, I said, my voice trembling. I really did go out. That's why he couldn't find me. Lady Ren wasn't convinced. Even if he was looking for you, how is it he accidentally wandered into Yue Huan's quarters? Yuexi, stay out of this. But he said someone gave him directions, I argued. What if that person led him astray on purpose? I told you, stay out of it. Lady Ren turned to Jianying. Jianying, take your sister back to her room, now. But Jianying didn't move. I gathered every ounce of courage I had. If we're going to settle this, we can't just interrogate Li Meng. We need to find the servant who gave the directions. They need to face him. Lady Ren scoffed. We thought of that, but Li Meng has been gesturing and rambling so incoherently that we have no idea who he's talking about. Then bring everyone in the manor here, Jianying said. Line them up. Let him identify the person, one by one. Lady Ren hesitated, then nodded. Fine. As the servants were being gathered, Yi Jianying leaned in amidst the chaos and whispered to Li Meng, The army camp you served in, which unit was it? Who was your commander? The 17th Battalion, Li Meng muttered, under Zhang Yong. Jianying asked nothing else. Once the household was assembled, the Prime Minister finally let Li Meng stand to walk the line. I waited, breathless, for the result. But after circling the crowd, Li Meng slowly shook his head. None of them. Jianying turned to the butler. Is everyone here? Everyone on duty today is present, the butler replied, except for Miss Yue Huan's carriage driver. He said there was an emergency at home this evening and asked for leave. As the butler spoke, Lady Ren's expression shifted into something complex and unreadable. I caught a glimpse of it and felt a chill. That's enough, Lady Ren said firmly, her eyes fixed on the butler. This matter ends here. In that moment, a realization hit me, but I didn't dare voice it. I looked at Li Meng. The same suspicion was mirrored in his eyes. The fury had left his face. We both knew the immediate danger had passed, but at a heavy cost. The next morning, the Prime Minister came to see me alone. He looked weary as he spoke of the past. After you went missing, your mother nearly died of grief. She was skin and bones. We feared she wouldn't make it. That's why we brought Yue Huan home. She was a child we'd rescued from human traffickers, and your mother poured all her love into her, hoping that by showing mercy to another child, the heavens might protect you. It may have started as a substitute, but after 10 years, those bonds aren't easily broken. Your mother, she can be muddled sometimes, and her protection goes too far. He turned away slightly. Back then, our men caught the trafficker who took you, but when they searched the boat, they only found Yue Huan and the other children. You were nowhere to be found. We assumed you were dead. That was when we let Yue Huan take your name. I understand, I whispered, cutting him off. Good, he said, patting my hand. One more thing. Princess Juelian has sent an invitation to the manor. She wants the three of you, the siblings, to attend her banquet on the 5th. Yue Huan is grounded and cannot go. You are 6 months pregnant, so it's best if you stay home as well. Jianying will go in your stead. I went anyway. I went in secret. The banquet on the 5th was held on a boat. As the moon rose, a magnificent vessel appeared on the capital's river. It was 4 or 5 stories high, draped in hundreds of glowing lanterns that turned the water into a shimmering mirror, making even the moonlight seem dim. Zizong was on that boat. I'd heard from his keepers that he'd taken a job as a servant for the event, and they couldn't stop him. He wanted to earn a little money. When I arrived, the stewards saw me stepping out of the Prime Minister's carriage and didn't even ask for an invitation. I saw Zizong. His leg was better. He was moving well enough to work. I watched him from a distance but didn't call out. I turned to leave, but the winding corridors of the massive ship confused me, and I lost my way. That was when I saw something I shouldn't have. Princess Shuilian sat lazily on the edge of a bed, draped in a thin, sheer robe. Her pale, delicate feet rested lightly on Xu Linghuai's hands. He was kneeling, helping her into her shoes. I held my breath. Suddenly, Xu Linghuai turned his head. His dark, deep gaze swept over my face before he looked away. I fled. A moment later, a pair of hands grabbed me. It was Ren Jianying, his brow furrowed in frustration. If Xu Linghuai hadn't told me you were here, I wouldn't have known. What are you doing? I just came to see the festivities. Then let's go. I'm leaving too. But in the blink of an eye, a scream tore through the air. Chaos erupted. The sound of running feet, shoving, and panicked cries of "Fire!" filled the ship. Jianying tried to pull me towards safety, but the crowd surged, knocking him down. "She's pregnant! Don't push her!" he screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the roar of the flames. I clutched my belly, fleeing in terror. The ship was an inferno and couldn't reach the shore. The only hope was the small rescue boats rowing toward us. Just as I grabbed the railing, a wooden beam above me snapped, wreathed in flames, and crashed down. I couldn't go back. My heart tightened as I leaped into the river. I could swim a little, but the current was vicious. My body felt heavy, dragging me down until someone grabbed me. They used all their strength to push me forward. I turned my head and saw Zhao Zizong. He couldn't swim, yet he was instinctively treading water just to keep me afloat, driving me toward the bank. In the frenzy, a small boat swirled near us. It was Xu Linghuai. He reached down and hauled me up while Zizong pushed from below. Once I was steady, Zizong looked up at me. "As long as the two of you are safe." "But that's enough." I reached back frantically. Xu Linghuai grabbed Zizong's hand, trying to pull him up, but the current was too strong. The small boat nearly capsized. In the violent rocking, Zizong let go of Xu Linghuai's hand, allowing the water to pull him under. I lunged halfway out of the boat, but all I could catch was a handful of water. The bone-chilling cold of the river seemed to freeze the very blood in my veins. As the boat reached the shore, I saw the banks lined with people, their faces masks of shock. The pleasure ship, built with a fortune's worth of gold, had turned to ash and charcoal in less than an hour. It tilted and groaned, sinking slowly into the depths. Some people in the crowd whispered and chuckled, watching the arrogant, high-ranking officials scramble for their lives, their dignity stripped away by the raw instinct to survive. Guards eventually arrived to clear the commoners. Princess Shuilian was brought ashore, her face and clothes pristine, without a single drop of water on her. But when she saw Xu Linghuai helping me onto the bank, her calm facade shattered. "Xu Linghuai," she snapped, "I don't care whose daughter she is. When the fire broke out, you weren't with me. You were running off to save someone else? You overstep your bounds." The commotion drew Ren Jianying's attention. He rushed over, taking me from Xu Linghuai's arms. "Princess," he said, "I asked Brother Xu to help my sister. She is pregnant and couldn't endure such an ordeal." Shuilian glanced at my stomach and finally went silent. "Fine, go." I suppose it's just my bad luck that the dragon boat caught fire today. How dull. On the way home, my body remained frozen. Jian Ying asked me several questions, but I didn't hear him. Not until a scout returned to report that while the noble guests had all survived, several of the hired servants had been lost. There weren't enough small boats to save them. Jian Ying looked at me and understood instantly, but I didn't tell him the truth. Zhao Zizong didn't drown because there weren't enough boats. He drowned because he didn't want to be saved. When we returned to the manor, Lady Ren was furious. She assumed Jian Ying had taken me on his own authority. Seeing me shivering and pale, she raised her hand to strike him. She is 7 months pregnant. How could you take her to such a place? Jian Ying didn't flinch. He looked down at her. Mother, if I am wrong, then punish me. We both know that whether it's a slap or a beating, we are family. We wouldn't grow apart. But tell me, when Yue Huan made mistakes, why did you never dare to punish her? Lady Ren's hand slowly dropped. Her aggression vanished, replaced by an avoidant gaze. Because Yue Huan believed she was our real daughter. When she found out the truth, I was afraid she was too sensitive. I didn't want her to feel unloved. I watched them, a strange mix of confusion and clarity wash over me. I realize now that Yue Huan wasn't just competing for affection because she was insecure. She did it because she knew Lady Ren's love for her was unshakable, and that gave her the freedom to be openly hostile toward me. A bitter envy took root in my heart. I looked at Lady Ren and thought, what if I threw myself into her arms right now? What if I told her about Zizong's death? Would she pity me enough to love me a little more tomorrow? But as Lady Ren guiltily began to change my clothes and wipe the river water from my skin, I remained as silent as a ghost. Part 2. Half a month passed. The wreckage of the pleasure ship was cleared from the river as if it had never existed. I asked Jian Ying if the emperor would punish Princess Suelian for such a costly disaster. He shook his head. No, it's just a boat. As long as the princess is unharmed, the emperor doesn't care. In fact, he's been trying to find new ways to amuse her, so she won't be bored. But Princess Suelian found her own amusement, me. She bypassed the prime minister's authority and sent men to bring me into the palace. Li Meng, uneasy, insisted on coming along. The gathering wasn't just the princess. There were dozens of noble sons and daughters dressed in fine silks. They were playing a floating poetry game, letting wine cups drift down a stream. Whoever the cup stopped in front of had to recite a poem or reveal a secret. I sat beside the princess. She turned to me with a faint smile. You were the one originally engaged to Shu Linghuai, weren't you? It doesn't count for anything now, I said. She laughed softly. And yet, Master Shu is quite devoted to the ladies of the Ren family. It was an emergency on the boat. She cut me off. I'm not talking about that. Her eyes grew dark and somber. You don't know, do you? I told Shu Linghuai that a war with the Jinshui tribe is inevitable. I told him that if he submits to me before the fighting starts, I will speak to my father and make him the commanding general. She paused. After all, his most beloved sister is currently a prisoner in Jinshui. She was the wife of the previous chieftain, and when the new one took power, she was made a concubine. She has endured every humiliation. She leaned in closer. I also told him that if he didn't submit when the time came for a new political marriage, I would suggest the daughters of the Prime Minister's house be sent. That is why he was so quick to break his engagement. I stared at her. Princess, why are you telling me this? Princess Shuelian looked away with cold indifference. Do you not find it amusing? Ren Yue Huan and all those noble girls before you? Every last one of them is infatuated with Shu Linghuai, and yet he is nothing more than a man I can have with a flick of my wrist. Suddenly, her eyes brightened. The wine cup had drifted down the stream and stopped directly in front of us. The princess recited a poem with effortless grace, then turned her gaze to me. "Your turn." "I am illiterate, Your Highness. I cannot compose poetry." She laughed softly. "Then tell us a secret instead. I heard an interesting story recently. Among those who drowned during the ship's fire, there was a kitchen hand named Zhao Zizong. When they tried to send his remains back to his village, the locals claimed you were his wife, the wife he sold. What does that mean exactly?" Laughter rippled through the gathered guests. "Has the princess never heard of it?" someone mocked. "It's called pawning a wife." Princess Shuilian turned to Li Meng. "Is that the truth?" Li Meng froze. A guard standing beside him suddenly kicked the back of his knees, forcing him into the dirt, and seized him by the collar. "The princess asked you a question. Answer her." Li Meng bowed his head, but before he could speak, I cut in. "It is the truth. I lived in bitter poverty. I tried selling medicinal herbs, selling sugar dough figurines. I did whatever needlework I could find. But it was never enough to pay for the medicine my family needed. I had no choice but to sell myself. If only I had been brought to the capital sooner. Perhaps if I had knelt before Your Highness's carriage and begged for mercy, I wouldn't have been driven to such a dead end." A heavy silence fell over the banquet, but for the first time I felt a strange sense of relief. I had finally voiced the truth I had tried so hard to bury. Whether facing the silent judgment of the Prime Minister's family or the awkward questions of Xu Linghuai, I had always pretended not to be ashamed. It was the only way to hide the raw humiliation of being traded like a piece of livestock. My self-comforting lies that it didn't matter who I married were nothing but a thin veil over my own helplessness. If I could go back, I would simply let myself cry for the woman I had been. The silence was shattered by a guard's exclamation. "Princess, look, this man has characters branded on his neck." Li Meng flinched, trying to wrench himself free, but the guards held him fast. I knew those marks. They were branded into him during his time in the army, and he had never let me see them. "Strip him," the princess commanded. I turned my head away and closed my eyes. Amidst the collective gasps of the crowd, I heard the princess read the words aloud. "Degenerate! What crime did you commit to earn this?" "It was that bastard Zhang Yang," Li Meng roared, his eyes bloodshot with rage. "He preyed on an innocent girl and pinned the blame on me." "Silence!" the princess snapped. Ren Jianying stepped forward quickly, his presence commanding. He looked at the princess and said, "This man is indeed a former soldier, but whatever crimes he committed in the ranks have already been punished. There is no need to stir up old ghosts, especially with a new war on the horizon. We shouldn't unsettle the men remaining in the service." "Fine, fine," the princess sighed, rubbing her temples. "All this shouting gives me a headache." I noticed then that this was the second time Jian Ying had stepped in to save us, and both times the princess had yielded to him. Perhaps it was because of his reputation. He had pacified the south and brought order to the west. He was a man even a princess had to respect. As I climbed down from the carriage later that day, the cushions were soaked with blood. Li Meng's eyes went wide. He scooped me up and ran inside. "The baby is coming," the physician announced. "It's only 8 months, but we have no choice." Lady Ren stumbled into the room and pressed a protection charm into my hand. As a wave of agony crashed over me, I clawed at the bed sheets and dropped the charm, but she pressed it back into my palm and held my hand tight. "Mother, Mother," I sobbed through the pain. I'm here, Lady Wren whispered, her own face drenched in sweat. But in my delirium, the face in my mind wasn't hers. I was like a small child again, calling out for a magic word that could summon a guardian to take the pain away. I drifted in and out of consciousness until finally, the thin wail of a newborn pierced the air. I slept for days. When I finally woke, Lady Ren was by my side. "Li Meng and the baby are gone," she said softly. "A wet nurse went with them. Don't worry about where they are. It's better this way." I knew why they had to leave so abruptly. The scandal of the pawned wife must have traveled through every street in the capital. "I won't cause the family any more shame," I whispered. Tears welled in Lady Ren's eyes. If my only worry was shame, I would be a lucky woman. I sent them away because I didn't want the child to grow up with the world looking down on him. Do you think I don't know the pain of losing a child? I've lived it. I felt a pang of guilt. I was a mother now, yet I was still throwing bitter words at my own mother. "The child has been named," Lady Ren added. "His name is Ping An." Peace. I was reflecting on the name when Ren Jianying strode into the room. "Yuexi, where is Li Meng?" "Why are you asking about him now?" Lady Ren scolded. "Where have you been these last few days?" "Investigating," Jianying said. I looked into the military records. It turns out Li Meng was framed by that man, Zhang Yong. He's been arrested and Li Meng's name has been cleared. Lady Ren gasped. "But he's been gone for days." "He took the child and left," I said, my voice breaking as I looked at Jianying. "You told me that if you hadn't brought me back, I would have been sold again. But now I know that wouldn't have happened. This separation, it hurts too much." Jianying looked at me for a long moment, his expression solemn. "I am sorry. I was wrong." 2 months passed before Lady Ren finally told me that Li Meng and Ping An were still in the capital, living in hiding so that no one could point a finger at the Prime Minister's disgraceful grandson. They planned to move further away once the boy was old enough to walk. I continued my recovery, planning to return to Zhao Zizong's mother once I was strong enough, but the neighbors told me she was gone. She had passed away the very day the Prime Minister's men came for Zizong. I finally understood why Zizong had lost his will to live. Perhaps he had held onto a shred of hope when the banquet began, but the fire had turned that hope to ash. The manor grew frantic. War with the Jin Shui had broken out, and the emperor had appointed Ren Jianying as the commanding general. Lady Ren spent her days sewing knee guards and praying at temples. But only 2 days after the decree was issued, Shu Linghuai stormed into the manor. "Why?" he demanded of Jianying. "The decree was supposed to name me the commander. Why did you petition the emperor to change it?" "I am better suited for this than you," Jianying replied calmly. "I have more experience on the battlefield." Shu Linghuai's eyes clouded with a complex emotion. "You've won so many battles already. Are you not afraid of the emperor's jealousy? Of being too successful for your own good?" Jianying remained silent for a long moment. "The emperor is not easily blinded. And tell me, if you were the commander, what would you do? Would you bring your sister home? Or would you watch as the enemy executed her before your very eyes to mock you?" Shu Linghuai stood frozen. Finally, with reddened eyes, he bowed deeply to Jianying and left the manor. On the day the army marched out, the citizens lined the streets. Lady Ren, Yue Huan, and I were among the crowd. Yue Huan had been released from her grounding. She now called me second sister in a quiet, subdued voice. I didn't snap at her, but I couldn't bring myself to smile either. "How long will they be gone?" I asked her. "If we are lucky, a year and a half," she replied. "If the Jin Shui are difficult, much longer." Jianying led the vanguard, his figure quickly fading into the distance. When he was gone from sight, Lady Ren pulled on my sleeve. "Let's go home." As I turned to leave, I caught sight of a familiar face. Shu Linghuai was dressed in the simple uniform of a common soldier, marching at the very rear of the line. He felt my gaze and turned, offering me a faint, fleeting smile. This campaign might not erase the shame of his father's past, but he was trying. The era of using women as shields for peace was coming to an end. Now, the resolution would be found in steel and fire. The war in the north felt a world away from the capital. Over the next year, the scandal of the pawned wife faded from the public's memory. Lady Ren eventually asked if I wanted to see Ping An. "I'm only afraid that once you see him, you won't be able to let go," she admitted. I shook my head. No need. The truth was, I had already seen them. Li Mong had hired an elderly nurse to watch Ping An during the day while he worked as a street peddler. When he wasn't working, he would take the boy to a small pavilion to soak in the sun. I knew this because I sat near that pavilion whenever the weather was fine. One day, I arrived to find workers tearing the pavilion down. Li Mong was there, asking why. "Princess Juelian likes the view here," a worker explained. "She's seizing the land. This old thing is outdated, so we're clearing it to build something new." Li Mong nodded and turned to lead Ping An away. Just then a little girl, no more than 5 years old, ran toward the workers. "Father, Mother told me to bring you some water." The worker started to climb down his ladder to take the water, but his eyes went wide. "Don't touch that. I'm not finished. Watch out!" A heavy crossbeam snapped and plummeted toward the girl. Li Mong lunged forward, shielding her with his own body. A sickening thud echoed through the air, followed by a scream. My legs gave out. I could only crawl toward the wreckage where Ping An stood, wailing. Li Mong survived, but he was never the same. His mind was shattered. He no longer recognized anyone. He refused to stay in the manor, wandering the streets in rags. He was strong, though. Whenever the servants tried to bring him back, he would fight them off. People threw coins at him out of pity, and he became known as the local beggar. He knew he was a beggar. He saved every copper he was given, asking everyone he met, "Is this enough to bury me?" Most people just shooed him away, calling him bad luck. Then, one day, he vanished. I thought he was dead until the news broke. Princess Zuelian had been assassinated. During a royal procession, a man with a hideously scarred face had lunged forward and driven a blade through her throat. He was so strong, he nearly decapitated her. She died instantly. The assassin was struck down by 7 arrows to the heart. The emperor demanded the man's identity, but the body was a mystery. Not only was the face destroyed, but the skin on his torso had been systematically flayed and scarred, leaving no recognizable mark. He was a nameless corpse, but I knew who he was. He had destroyed his face so no one would recognize him, and he had destroyed his skin to erase the brand of his crime. He had no family left. The only link was the Prime Minister's house, and by making himself unrecognizable, he ensured the manor would never be implicated in his revenge. The emperor wanted to hang the body from the city walls, but the Prime Minister intervened, arguing it would only spread terror. The body was thrown into a potter's field. Li Mong's final obsession had been answered. He had enough money to be buried. The Prime Minister came to see me afterward. His face held a gravity I had never seen before. "You must leave," he said. "Is it because I'm not really Yuexi?" I asked. "Is it because of Li Mong?" He sighed. "The birthmark on your arm. It matches Yuexi's exactly, but it was just a coincidence. Your mother realized the truth after you gave birth. She saw the details." My throat tightened, and my feet felt like they were rooted to the floor. I refused to move. The Prime Minister grew harsh then. pushing me toward the gates in full view of the public. "The Prime Minister's house will not harbor an impostor," he shouted. I fled from the crowd, tears streaming down my face. Liar, I thought. My father is a liar. I was 4 when I was kidnapped. I was young, but I wasn't a fool. I remembered living in a grand house. After the kidnapping, I fell into the hands of an old couple who fed me but were too muddled to understand my talk of an older brother. They told me I had hit my head and become slow. I held on to those memories until I was 6, but eventually they began to fade into fragments of dreams. I remembered being on that boat with Yue Huan. I remember trying to escape, fighting my way out while she stayed behind. I had endured so much to survive, only to have the Prime Minister's rescue slip through my fingers by a matter of minutes. And that was why I had cut him off when he spoke of the kidnapping. I didn't want to hear how close I had come to being saved. The old couple had passed me to Zhao Zizong, and he had sold me to Li Meng. After 3 different lives, I had finally come home, only to be cast out again. Perhaps I had simply returned too late. I spent 2 days in an inn, grieving the life I could have had, the life Yue Huan had lived in my place. But eventually I went back. I wanted to stay, to beg, to be near them. When I reached the gates, I found them sealed. The Prime Minister's manor had been seized. The rumors flew. Jian Ying had pushed the enemy back to the very gates of the Jin Shui kingdom. He was 1 step away from total victory, waiting for the order to finish them. But the emperor, fearful and erratic, ordered a retreat, choosing peace talks instead. Jian Ying couldn't ignore a royal command, but he didn't retreat alone. He stormed the enemy camp and rescued Shu Linghuai's sister. The Jin Shui chieftain was humiliated. When the news reached the capital, everyone knew the Ren family was doomed. Yue Huan had knelt at the palace gates for a full day, offering herself for the political marriage to appease the enemy, but she was ignored. To save the peace, the emperor struck the Ren family down. The prime minister was exiled. Jian Ying was brought back in chains to face trial. The women were to be sold into slavery. Lady Ren refused to let herself or Yue Huan endure such a fate. They took their own lives. Those who recovered the bodies said Lady Ren died holding Yue Huan tight. Yi stood in the crowd. On the day the prime minister was led away in one direction, and Jian Ying was brought in from another. The prime minister's hair had turned white as snow. He looked nothing like the man at the sugar dough stall. Jian Ying, stripped of his armor and dressed in prisoner's rags, looked weathered and broken by the harsh winds of the border. The father and son passed each other in chains, yet neither looked the other in the eye. It was their final goodbye. I remembered what Jian Ying had told me before he left, that whatever happened, I shouldn't look at him with pity. He had chosen his path. I tried to follow them out of the city, but someone stopped me. It was Shu Linghuai. When the prime minister was imprisoned, I saw him in secret, he said. He told me to give you a message. What is it? Yuexi never enjoyed the blessings of this house. She should not have to suffer its curses. Shu Linghuai followed me as I left the capital. Are you doing this out of pity? I asked him. I have no right to offer you pity, he said, his voice flat. You are the one person who saw me as I truly was, a dog groveling at the princess's feet. Then why follow me? I have nowhere else to go. He told me his sister was safe, but because she was a catalyst for the family's ruin, the military had reported him dead on the battlefield to protect her. Shu Linghuai no longer existed. He could never return to the capital or see his family again. And so, we became companions. On the road, people asked if we were husband and wife. He would say no. They asked if we were siblings. He would say no. We are just two people fleeing the same storm, I would say. The world fell into chaos. Rebellion sparked across the land, and the dynasty began to crumble like the burning pleasure ship. We helped other women who were lost in the turmoil, and Su Linghuai never left my side. Years passed. The old emperor was gone. His body hung from the very walls he once ruled. A new era began, and we settled in a small town in the south. We opened a tofu stall to make ends meet. One day, Shu Linghuai noted that there were many children in town and asked if we should sell sugar dough figurines. No, I said firmly, never. Really? He teased. I'd rather die. He laughed and we stuck to tofu. Because we lived together, people eventually assumed we were married. We didn't correct them. Though we remained nothing more than companions, living a life of quiet, clean friendship. The years turned our hair to silver. One evening, looking at him, I realized we were nearly 50. Why did you stay? I asked. Why protect me for all these decades? I remembered a time when we were younger. Some corrupt guards had tried to harass me, and Shu Linghuai had stepped in. He had the skills to kill them, but he let them beat him nearly to death instead, knowing that if he fought back, our quiet life would vanish. We only met a few times before the manor was seized, I continued. If anything, I should be the one indebted to you. I've kept a secret from you for a long time, he said, his eyes misting over. Do you remember the day I went hunting? Before I met you, I had startled a wolf cub. The mother wolf chased me, but I was too fast. She went into a frenzy. And that was when she found Zhao Zizong. It was likely the same wolf. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I felt a sudden, profound clarity. I remembered the night I told him why I had become a pawn wife. His shock hadn't been about the contract. It was because I had mentioned the date Zizong was bitten, the very day he was hunting. You're mistaken, I said softly. Zizong and I were on a different mountain when we were attacked, and it was a male wolf. Shu Linghuai froze. He tried to smile, but tears escaped and ran down his face. The weight he had carried for 20 years, a guilt he would have taken to his grave, finally fell away. I told him to stay inside while I went to gather some firewood for dinner. On the small path behind our house, I encountered a wolf. It didn't attack. It simply watched me before trotting away. I watched it go, thinking it looked a great deal like the wolf that had changed my life all those years ago.